before we get to the type, the technical specification is basically a written statement that is telling the procurement department what is exactly needed by the supplier. Now, in some technical specifications, you need to have the title of the product. In other words, this is a computer, a PC. That's the title. You need to have specific constraints. For example, temperatures that it can withstand, pressures that it can withstand, issues of dust and altitude, wind velocity, and so forth and so forth. So, when we are talking about specific constraints, we are basically giving, for example, when I say specific constraints, physical space should be 10 by 10 by 10. I am telling the person when you're storing the product, it should be within these constraints. Now, the other thing that is needed in the technical specification is what we call the performance requirement. And in performance requirements, we are telling the supplier or the procurement department what exactly is the product supposed to do. Its function is this. It wants this, and so forth and so forth. So, that is under performance. The other thing is the packing requirement. Is it highly breakable? Is it fragile? Is it supposed to be within dry environment? That is being mentioned under the packing. Now, we go to another aspect, which is size, and then you have another one is the packaging type, the type of package that you need to use. Do you need cartons? Do you need glass? Do you need items that do not break easily, and so forth? So, that being said, there are many other aspects that you can find within the specifications. For example, ISO certification packaging procedure. You have the color of the item or the testing procedure. Now, I want to talk about the testing because it's very, very important when we are buying. Note, there are two types of tests. There is the internal test or the external test. The internal test is being done by the procurement department once they receive the item. The external test is being done by the supplier, but they will need to provide certifications of testing. Now, the reason why this is the case is, before a product is being used, the certifications must be verified. And in testing, we say you can have two types of testing. 100% testing, in other words, every item is tested, and this is used when we need the highest standard. And you can have a sampling testing. And in sampling, if you have 10,000 items, you only pick a sample of 200. If they are good, then you pass the whole bunch of items delivered. Now, that being said, there are several things that will influence the specification that you have. For example, you can have policies of the organization influence the type of specification that you can have. If you are fast food that uses a centralized system, if the policy of your headquarters is to buy certain items in specific ways, then this will influence your specification activity. The other thing that will influence your specification is the production system that you use. Is it a line system or is it a batch system? And this applies heavily when we are dealing with items as fast foods. Hamburgers, how do we drill them? How fatty should the meat be in a fast food? What type of potatoes do we need? And so forth and so forth. These are articulated by the organization, and again they will affect the specification, which will affect the supply of the item. Now, in the specification we say there are different types. Now, we have what you call technical specifications, and this has to do with what we talked about: brand names, you're using samples, you're using physical characteristics, you're using the chemical composition of those products, you're using technical constraints that we talked about. Everything under that is a technical specification. Then you have the second type of specification, is what you call a drawing specification. If I want a house and I get both an architectural drawing or a structural drawing, this is what you call a drawing specification. If I'm buying an electronics and I get an electrical map drawing, again, that is what you call a drawing or design specification. The third type of specification is what you call standards. And here, you can use what you the KEB standards, or you can use what you call ISO certification standards. Now, when we are enforcing specifications, if there are certain scenarios where it would really apply, and this has to do with the requirements of the organization at hand. For example, currently we have the COVID pandemic, and it is a requirement for you to have a negative COVID certificate when you're leaving the country, and you need to be tested when you enter in the country. Now, given that is the situation that we have on the ground, that type of certification is what you call conformance certification. In other words, you are trying to force the supplier or party A, B, Y to conform to certain standards. Now, there are benefits of both conformance specification and standard specification. We will not get to that. You can be able to read that in your notes or in the manual that I have given. So, if there is something that I would take away from this whole lesson is the types of specification. You can have a sample, you can have brand, you can have technical specification, you can even have what we call grades in agricultural products. For example, if it is cotton, is it grade 1, grade 2, grade 3? If it's coffee, is it grade 1, grade 2, or 3? That is a grading system. Now, some of the things that will affect the specification are policies and production systems, and the types of specifications are listed below. So I don't think there is much to add to that. So we move on to the next lesson. That's it for specification. Thank you.